Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How I Doubled. My name is Pete Kvist, and this is the show where we take a look at businesses that have doubled their turnover within the last 2 years. We break it down to the 5 biggest factors that have led to their success, and then hopefully construct them in a way that you can implement them into your business as well. And in this series, we have seen a very wide range of businesses, from those that are very early on in the piece, smaller businesses, through to well-established businesses that have been around for decades and putting that extra ignition of enthusiasm to double their turnover once again. We've had businesses from small to very large, men and women. And what we love is the fact that on today's episode, we've mixed all of our favourites together. Today, we have a very inspiring woman who has overseen a business go from $4 million in turnover to almost $30 million in turnover. You heard that absolutely right, from $4 million to $30 million in turnover in just 2 years. Please welcome CEO of Product from AussieCommerce, Alexandra Mills. Alexi, thanks for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Now, this is an incredible story. From $4 million in turnover to almost $30 million in turnover in 2 years. Did you believe that that was possible when you undertook this journey?
I don't think I would have thought this amount of growth would have been possible. I was looking to grow the business and make it a successful business, but I don't think the plan at the beginning was to, grow it this quickly to this stage.
Okay, so for those watching, CEO of Product at AussieCommerce, what does that mean? What do you guys actually do?
Okay, so AussieCommerce is an e-commerce group with various brands, and we split the company into really 3 segments now. We have the product businesses, we have the travel business, and then we have the local experience businesses, which is more the daily deals businesses with local restaurants and spas and things, with more traditional daily deals. So I look after the product section of the business, which covers homewares, fashion, sports, and giftware. And we have 4 sites running these products, which is the home.com.au, brands exclusive, the active, and pop.
Okay, yeah. And who are your target audience? Who are your customers?
So each site is targeting a different customer, really. So at the home, it's very heavily female, as you'd expect. It's probably, we're targeting anyone really who has a home or likes making their home look beautiful, who wants to, and at an affordable price. But that's generally females, 30 plus. That's generally the market. And then brands exclusive are fashion business. It's fashion and homewares. It's targeting, it's a slightly younger market, but it's still quite a broad spectrum, and different brands that we have on the site appeal to different people. So, but still pretty heavily female at about 85%.
Okay, and looking at yourself in the last 2 years, tell me a little bit about your role as it stood 2 years ago and your role as it stands today. Okay,
so I started with the home business, previously owned by Rocket Internet, and AussieCommerce acquired it in mid-2012, and that's where I was working at the time. I was the operations manager. When they acquired the business, a few months later, I became the CEO of the business, which was great. The guys from AussieCommerce really trusted in me and gave me this responsibility to look after the company. So I've been doing that since the beginning of 2013, which is when, the company, we rebranded it as The Home, but essentially it was the same business. And then in December 2014, so just over a year ago, I took over the whole product business at AussieCommerce after a few acquisitions that we'd made to look after all the product businesses and head them up.
And you mentioned that AussieCommerce, when the business was acquired, they made you CEO. Now, that sounds wonderful, but also at the time, the business was in a position whereby it didn't look as exciting as it does. 4 million to 30 million, it's like, oh, wow, this is a simple success story. But this is a business that was staring down the barrel of obscurity.
Yeah, and at that time, it was at less than 4 million. That was actually just before then. It was probably about just under 2 million at that time. The company had been bought. The investors had really pulled out in the Australian market because it wasn't going well. It wasn't like their business in Europe. There's lots of intricacies of the Australian market that are unique here that aren't the same as around the world. Especially with the product business where we've got this wide expanse of land with people all over the place. It's not like Europe. Shipping to Perth is like shipping from England to Moscow or something. So it's different. And they just couldn't find a way to work with that. So they didn't see it as a potential growth market and they pulled out. So the business was acquired very quickly by AussieCommerce. We literally had 2 weeks to sell it or to close it. So it was great that they saved this business. They really saved it. And then we had to decide what to do with it. And it wasn't doing well. Otherwise it wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have been in that situation. And so it was hard. We saw potential in it, but we didn't quite know what we'd do at that stage. Yeah.
So for our international viewers, what are some of the comparable businesses in Europe or say in North America? What are some of the similar businesses there?
So a similar business to The Home, very similar businesses. One Kings Lane in the US is the largest and the original homewares flash sale site. And then in Europe and in South America, it's West Wing, which is the Rocket Internet business that we started as. Yeah.
And a lot of people saw, these flash sale sites become extremely popular, and it was outrageously attractive for investors several years ago. But then it seemed to not go by the wayside. But what happened to the businesses generally as a whole?
I think that was the deals part of it, where you were buying the experiences and the travel, and they started going into product. That was what everyone saw as the next growth industry, and all the media companies bought up their companies for ridiculous amounts. And that didn't turn into the industry that was expected. But then on the other side, you've got the product businesses, which are running a similar model, right? It's still running sales, limited time sales of a limited set of products at a great discount. But it's in a very different way. The deal sites, you're going to get something cheap. You're just looking for a great bargain. Whereas on the product side, we've really changed that side of the group buying industry to make it look and be premium, right? A beautiful experience, somewhere you want to go to because you like what it looks like and you get inspired, and there's stuff you really need. Maybe more in the deals sector, you don't really need that restaurant voucher, right? And you can do without it. But products for your home, you're always going to need the new sheet sets and quilt cover sets, and you want to refresh your home with cushions and things. And also in Australia now, there's it's at a time in that industry where it's really popular. There's all those shows like The Block and things where people are really interested in making their house into a home. And I think the perception of a home has really changed in the last couple of years in Australia as well, to more like you change your outfit. You want to have your home looking like that as well. You want to be proud of it. You want to live there and have people around and do things at home, and
so
a bit different.
Tell me about the business, The Home.
Mm-hmm.
How dire was it?
It was losing money, and I think it had potential, but it was too small at the time. The orders that you were taking weren't large enough to get big suppliers on board, and then you're in a sort of vicious circle. You can't get the product, so you can't sell the product, right? And you have to break that. And that's the biggest turning point, is when you can, it's what you get first, right? You have the great product, or because you need that to make the sales, but if you don't make the sales, you can't get the product. So getting that started, that we hadn't done that yet, and that's why it was in a state. And there was a very negative feeling, like the business hadn't grown, it had just been bought. No one really knew what was happening. No one believed in it, and that's an issue. If no one believes that the business is going to do well, it's not.
Well, you've segued beautifully into our first point of the 5 today. So for those keeping track at home, this is our first point, which is believe in the business. Now, I must admit, when I first saw this point, I went, hang on a second. This is a business that's gone from, in the last 2 years, from $4 million turnover to just under 30 million in turnover. And I'm going to keep saying those numbers because they are incredible. Yeah. And then I looked at believe in the business. Like, it sounds entirely wishy-washy.
Yeah, I suppose it does. And it maybe isn't something back 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I wouldn't have said it. But looking back, when I was thinking about this, I was like, well, turning the perception of the team from a perception of working in a company that's got no future, you're just doing it, you're probably looking elsewhere for a job, you're just there, to a company that, yes, I want to work here, I can see it working, it's exciting, like we're going to make this work, and it's really important. And you have to turn that corner. And you have to turn that corner before the sales turn around, I think. And that's hard because when sales start growing, then that comes more naturally. You can get the excitement going if you share that detail with the team. But before, that's tough.
Well, look, and there's a lot of businesses. This is a fairly common thing where businesses are going backwards, and it's, how do we take that first step to turn it around? And you're saying, belief in the business is essential, but easy to say, very hard to convince yourself, let alone a group of people that, you know what, we might be heading in the wrong direction, but I see a bright future for us.
Yeah, it's true. So I think the first step, and this was from, the directors of AussieCommerce, is the company didn't have a leader as such. So we came across the old, there were a couple of MDs at the company, they left. So it didn't have a leader, and there were the two sort of directors of AussieCommerce, but they were running the other businesses. They didn't have a leader. So I think just their gesture of saying, right, Lexi's now going to run this company, was the first signal that we're going to invest in this company. We want this company to work. So it always has to come very much from the top, right? And that was the first stage, and there was me. I hadn't run the company before. I'd never run a whole company before, but I'm very enthusiastic, and I was very enthusiastic, and I wanted to make this work. And then just how I then approached it with the team, how I got very involved with them, and with each person, looking about how things could work, what we're doing, what we could be doing better, and just bringing that enthusiasm and care.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.